All my life I watched the same strange pattern. The people who most desperately wanted to be liked were often the least liked, and they all made the same mistake. They ignored one simple human need. I saw men and women trying everything they could think of to win favor. Some tried to impress others with their achievements. They talked about their degrees, their promotions, their travels. Others tried to be the cleverest person in the room, always ready with a joke, a story, or an opinion. Some gave advice constantly, eager to prove how wise they were. Many simply talked and talked, hoping that if they were interesting enough, people would naturally be drawn to them, and yet, in spite of all their effort, they did not create the kind of connection they longed for. People were polite to them, certainly. They nodded, smiled, and said the right words, but when it came time to choose whom to trust, whom to confide in, whom to follow, they turned to someone else. The very people who wanted to be liked the most were quietly passed over. You can see this in any office. There is often one person who knows the most, but is not the most listened to. He offers his opinion in every meeting, corrects others, and reminds everyone how much experience he has. Yet, when the real decisions are made, he finds that his voice carries very little weight. Nearby, there may be another person who speaks less. But when they do speak, people pay attention. Why? It is not only because of what they know, but because of how they make others feel. In social settings, the pattern is just as clear. At a gathering, one person tries to be the life of the party. They dominate the conversation, tell stories, and make sure everyone hears their jokes. Yet when the evening is over, people leave without feeling closer to them. Another person may not say as much, but they ask a sincere question, listen with interest, and remember a detail about your life. Weeks later, you may barely recall what the first person said, but you remember the second with warmth. Even in the home, where love is supposed to be strongest, this mistake is common. A husband or wife works hard, sacrifices, does countless tasks for the family, and quietly thinks, why does no one appreciate me? A parent provides, cooks, cleans, arranges everything, and still feels taken for granted. They give and give, but do not understand why the people closest to them seem distant or ungrateful. Beneath the surface, resentment builds on all sides. One feels overworked and unseen, the others feel controlled or misunderstood. When this happens over and over again, the stakes become very high. A man begins to feel invisible in his own life. A woman begins to feel that her presence or absence hardly matters. People stop speaking honestly to one another because they have learned that no one is really listening. Opportunities pass by because decision makers do not feel drawn to the person who is trying so hard to impress them. Friendships become shallow. Marriages grow cold. Homes that should be filled with warmth feel more like hotels where people pass each other in the hallway. To be ignored is one of the most painful experiences in human life. To feel that your thoughts, your efforts, your struggles and sacrifices make no difference to anyone is a heavy burden. It produces loneliness even in a crowded house, and isolation even in the middle of a bustling office. And yet, very few people ever stop to ask themselves, what need is being neglected here? What is it that I am missing in others and they are missing in me? Again and again, I saw the same thing. When you satisfy this one need in another person, their attitude toward you changes almost instantly. Their eyes soften. Their defensiveness drops. They lean in instead of pulling away. They begin to trust you, sometimes after only a few minutes. You have not bribed them. You have not flattered them with empty praise. You have simply touched a very deep place in their nature that is hungry to be recognized. You do not need a powerful position to have this effect. You do not need to be rich, beautiful, or brilliant. I met men with very modest jobs, very simple backgrounds, who possessed enormous social power because they understood and honored this one human need wherever they went. People felt better in their presence. They felt more alive, more worthy, more respected, and so they gladly followed their lead. In this talk, I will show you that need. I will show you the one human desire that governs most social behavior, whether people are aware of it or not. I will teach you how to recognize it in others, in their words, in their complaints, in their everyday stories, and, most importantly, I will show you exactly how to respond to it, so that people open up, trust you, and willingly cooperate with you. If you have ever felt overlooked, unheard, or unable to influence those around you, stay with me. You may not need a new personality. You may not need more charm, more jokes, or more impressive stories. You may simply need to stop ignoring the deepest need in human nature and start meeting it, quietly, skillfully, and sincerely, in every person you meet. After years of teaching, writing, and listening, I became convinced of this. The deepest urge in human nature is the desire to feel important. Not merely appreciated, not simply liked, but important. To feel that who we are and what we do has weight, that it matters to someone. You can observe this truth everywhere once you begin to look for it. A person will endure long hours, criticism, discomfort, and frustration with remarkable patience if, beneath it all, they feel important, if they sense that their work, their effort, or their presence carries meaning. But take that feeling away. Let them believe they are unnoticed or unnecessary, and even the smallest inconvenience becomes unbearable. Their spirit tightens. Their warmth fades. They withdraw, or they resist, or they grow resentful. People do not become cold because they lack goodness. They become cold because they feel insignificant. One of the greatest misunderstandings in social behavior is this. People believe they must show their own importance to gain influence. They speak of their achievements, their plans, their talents. They highlight their strengths. They try to stand taller, shine brighter, speak louder. Yet in all their effort, they overlook the one thing that would actually give them the influence they desire. Influence is not earned by proving how important you are. Influence is granted by helping others feel how important they are. That is the human law. People do not remember your credentials. They do not store away your list of successes. They may admire you for a moment, but admiration is a thin emotion. It fades quickly. What they never forget, what binds them to you with something far deeper than admiration, is how you made them feel about themselves in your presence. Most people, without realizing it, treat others as background characters in the story of their own lives. They listen half-heartedly. They rush conversations. They talk while scrolling through their phones. They ask questions only to pivot back to themselves. They treat each new interaction as a stage on which they must perform. The truly influential, the ones who seem to possess quiet social power wherever they go, do something entirely different. They enter a conversation asking one silent question. How can I help this person feel that they matter? And people sense it instantly. Their eyes soften. Their guard drops. They begin to open themselves, not because they are impressed, but because they feel valued. The need to feel important shows itself in countless subtle ways. A man repeats a story because no one really listened the first time. A woman raises her voice not because she wants to shout, but because she feels unheard. A child misbehaves because being scolded is the only time they feel noticed. A friend complains not because the issue is large, but because their life feels small. Behind many behaviors we dislike is a simple truth we fail to see. Someone is trying, desperately, to feel important. Consider the employee whose work is consistently overlooked. He spends hours preparing a report, staying late, fixing mistakes that no one else noticed, and his manager simply glances at the result before moving on. No acknowledgement, no recognition, not even a moment of genuine interest. His motivation gradually dies, not because the work is hard, but because he feels invisible within it. Or the child who shares an idea at the dinner table only to be ignored as the adults shift the conversation. They do not realize it, but they are shaping that child's sense of self-worth. The child stops contributing, not from shyness, but from experience. My voice does not matter here. Or the customer who is treated like a form to fill out a line item, a transaction. They do not demand flattery. They only want to be treated as a person. Social power, as I teach it, is not control. It is not manipulation, not persuasion through pressure or charm. True social power is the ability to open hearts, to create cooperation, to inspire trust without demanding it. It is the power that comes when others feel valued in your presence, when they feel a little taller, a little stronger, a little more understood because you were with them. And this power is available to anyone, to the quiet, to the shy, to the person who believes they have little to offer. You do not need exceptional wit, beauty, or brilliance. You only need to understand the need that most people overlook, the need to feel important. Once you understand this need, you stop trying to impress people and start doing something far more powerful. You let them feel their own importance in your presence. In the next part, I will show you how to do that, not with tricks or flattery, but with small, sincere actions that transform how people experience you. Before you can practice any technique, any phrase, or any social skill, you must begin with an inner shift. People can feel your intention long before they hear your words. If your goal is to win something from them, approval, attention, respect, they will sense it, even if you disguise it well. But if your intention is to help them feel that they matter, that simple shift changes the entire emotional climate of the interaction. Instead of asking, how can I get what I want from this person? Ask yourself, how can I help this person feel they matter? This question softens your tone, relaxes your posture, and sharpens your attention. It moves you from performing to connecting. When I began teaching human relations, I repeated a few quiet phrases to myself before meeting anyone new. This person is important in some way I may not see yet. There is something admirable in this person if I look for it. I found that when I entered a conversation with this mindset, people responded as if a door had opened inside them. They became warmer, more willing to talk, more willing to trust, not because I was being clever, but because I was giving them something they rarely received: respect without conditions. Once the inner attitude is right, the outer habits become natural. Here are a few practices I taught thousands of students, simple actions that, when done sincerely, make others feel valued without flattery or manipulation. 1. Use their name with warmth. A person's name is, to that person, the sweetest and most important sound in any language. It captures their identity, their history, their entire sense of self. Using it, gently and naturally, signals that you see them not as an object or a role, but as an individual. The mistake is to use their name excessively, as a salesman might. The power lies in intention. A single warm, good to see you, Sarah, carries far more weight than 5 forced repetitions. A name spoken with real attention is a small act, but it lands deeply. 2. Listen as if their thoughts matter. Most people listen while waiting for their turn to talk. They nod politely, but their mind is already preparing a reply, an argument, or a story about themselves. True listening is rare and therefore unforgettable. To listen well, avoid interrupting during the first stretch of the conversation. Let the other person finish their idea. Turn your body toward them. Give small signals, brief eye contact, a quiet I see to show that you are following. These gestures do not seem dramatic, but they communicate something powerful. I value your thoughts enough to give them space. Many quarrels, misunderstandings, and cold relationships are not caused by lack of love or respect. They are caused by lack of listening. When people feel that their ideas matter to someone, they soften. They become more open and sincere. 3. Notice specific efforts and qualities. General praise, good job, well done is pleasant but quickly forgotten. It does not touch the deeper need because it sounds like something you could say to anyone. Specific recognition, however, tells a person that you truly saw them. There is a vast difference between good job and you stayed late 3 days this week to finish this project. That takes real dedication. The second statement reflects effort, sacrifice, and character. It shows that you notice the person's investment, not just the result. People bloom under this kind of recognition. Their posture changes, their eyes brighten. They feel important not in a superficial way, but in a human way. 4. Ask for their opinion and genuinely consider it. If you want to raise someone's sense of importance, ask what they think and treat their perspective with seriousness. When you say, I'd like to hear your view on this, you are telling them, your mind matters in this discussion. But the key is what comes after. Do not dismiss their input or use their opinion merely as a conversational tactic. Let their thoughts influence your thinking, even if only a little. People can tell when their ideas truly reach you. When a person realizes that their opinion affects your decisions, even in a small way, a bond forms. Cooperation becomes natural, not forced. Now, let me be very clear about what this approach is not. It is not giving hollow compliments. It is not manipulating someone's emotions to get what you want. It is not pretending to care. Flattery is saying to a person things you do not truly believe. Respect is noticing qualities that are genuinely present and taking the time to honor them. One builds distrust. The other builds strength. Many people fall into the same predictable errors. They give generic praise with no detail. They listen only for an opening to talk about themselves. They hijack every story. That reminds me of something I once did. These habits may seem harmless, but they quietly tell others, your importance is secondary to mine. When your goal is to make people feel important, you cannot afford to make the interaction about yourself too quickly. Let them have their moment. Let them shine. Allow room for their story before you share your own. The more you practice this, the less you will need to take social power. People will begin to offer it to you through trust, loyalty, and affection. They will speak of you with warmth, confide in you more openly, and cooperate with you more willingly, not because you impressed them, but because you understood them. And in a world full of people trying desperately to feel important, the one who helps them feel it naturally becomes the one they trust the most. Let us now step out of theory and into the places where you live every day. Your work, your home, your circle of friends. I want you to see how this one human need to feel important changes everything when you begin to honor it. Scene 1. At work. Picture a small office. The manager is capable, intelligent, and hardworking. He believes he is doing his job well because he keeps projects moving and corrects mistakes quickly. When something is wrong, he points it out. When something is missing, he demands it. But when something is done well, he says nothing at all. His thinking is, they're paid to do their work. Why should I congratulate them for what they're supposed to do? Watch what happens in that environment. Employees do the minimum. They avoid taking initiative because they know that if they stick their necks out, the only feedback they will receive is criticism. They rarely hear their name spoken with warmth only when something went wrong. They leave each day with the quiet feeling, I am just a pair of hands here. If I left tomorrow, no one would really care. Now let us look at the same office, the same work, the same deadlines, but a different understanding of human nature. The manager still corrects errors. He still gives clear instructions, but he also recognizes effort and invites people into the process. After a difficult client call, he stops and says, John, you handled that client calmly, under a lot of pressure. That matters here. What do you think we should improve next time? In that one sentence, he does several things. He uses John's name. He names a specific quality calm under pressure. He states that it matters, and then he asks for John's opinion. How does John feel now? Not like a cog, but like a contributor. He walks away taller. He cares a little more about the next client, about the next project, about the company's success because he feels that his presence is noticed and his judgment is valued. Over time, in such an atmosphere, people begin to offer more than the minimum. They volunteer ideas. They stay a little longer when needed. They warn of problems early instead of hiding them. Loyalty grows not to a logo or a paycheck, but to a person who makes them feel important. The work has not become easier. The hours are the same, but the feeling inside the people has changed, and that changes everything. Scene 2. In a relationship or family. Now let us visit a home. In this home, one partner, let us say the wife, carries a great share of the invisible work. She gets up early, prepares meals, organizes schedules, handles school matters, manages countless small tasks no one else thinks about. When she forgets something, she hears about it. When something is not done, it is mentioned. When the house is cluttered, someone comments, but when things go smoothly, there is silence. Days turn into weeks, weeks into years. Gradually, the warmth drains from her heart. She may not even be able to put words to it, but inside she is thinking, I do so much, and no one really sees it. The people she loves most do not intend to be ungrateful. They simply do not realize the power of recognizing her importance. Now imagine a small change, not a grand gift, not a dramatic speech, but a few sincere words. One evening, her husband pauses and says, You've been caring a lot for this family. I see it. It means more than I say. How are you feeling with all this? In that moment, something inside her relaxes. The weight does not vanish, but it feels lighter because it is no longer invisible. She feels important not just for what she produces, but for who she is to these people. Perhaps she answers, I'm tired. And for the first time in a long time, a real conversation begins. They talk about sharing responsibilities, about her needs, about their life together. Affection begins to flow where there was frustration. A simple recognition opens the door to understanding. The same principle applies to children. A child who only hears, clean your room, do your homework, and stop that, begins to feel like a problem to be managed. A child who hears, you've been trying hard at school, I noticed you didn't give up on that assignment. I'm proud of that effort, feels important in a much deeper way, and that feeling builds their character. Scene 3. Among friends. Finally, think of a group of friends. In many groups, there is one person who always talks the most. They tell the longest stories, have the strongest opinions, and often dominate the conversation. They might be liked, but quietly, some of the others feel like background characters. They attend, they listen, they laugh, but they do not feel especially important to the group. Now imagine someone within that circle who decides to act differently. At a dinner, they turn to one of the quieter friends and say, You always remember everyone's birthday. You're the one holding this group together. I really appreciate that. How do you manage to be so thoughtful? Look at what has happened. A contribution that was taken for granted, remembering birthdays, sending messages, organizing small details, has been named and honored. The friend who did those things suddenly realizes, they see me. They value what I bring. Their face brightens. They share a little about why they do it. The others at the table begin to see them in a new light. In that simple moment, the group becomes more connected because someone recognized the importance of a person whose efforts had been quiet. And what happens to the one who spoke those words? They become, without forcing it, the emotional center of the group. People are drawn to them, not because they are the loudest, but because they are the most observant and appreciative. When there is a conflict, they are the one both sides trust. When someone is hurting, they are the one people feel safe approaching. That is social power, not the power to command, but the power to connect. In every circle, at work, at home, among friends, the person who consistently makes others feel important becomes the one with the greatest quiet influence. Not through flattery, not through force, but through a sincere respect for the human need that most of the world neglects. Let us pause for a moment and gather the threads of what we have uncovered together. There is one deep human need that shapes almost every interaction, the need to feel important. When this need is honored, people open their hearts. When it is neglected, they close themselves off. Social power, the genuine kind, the lasting kind, comes from your ability to satisfy that need sincerely. And the path to that power is simple. Notice, name, appreciate, ask, listen. 5 small movements of attention that transform how people experience themselves and how they experience you. You may have seen yourself as shy, overlooked, or without influence. Perhaps you believed that others were simply more charismatic, more confident, more commanding by nature. But you do not need louder words or a bigger personality to gain influence. You need something far more meaningful, a deeper respect for the importance of others. When you begin to see people not as obstacles or opportunities, but as human beings longing to feel that they matter, you step into a new identity, one that does not depend on talent or performance, but on understanding. Let this be your new label, quiet but powerful. I am someone who makes others feel important, and that gives me real social power. When you wear this identity, you do not need to insert yourself into every conversation. You do not need to argue to prove a point. You do not need to be the most entertaining or impressive person in the room. Your presence alone becomes a source of comfort and respect because others sense that you genuinely value them. To help this identity take root, repeat these simple affirmations. I don't need to impress. I need to make others feel they matter. People feel important in my presence. My power comes from lifting others, not from pushing them down. These are not mere sentences. They are reminders of who you are becoming. Now, let us make this practical. Each day, choose one person, just one. Use their name. Notice one effort they are making. Recognize it sincerely. Ask one simple question about it, and listen without rushing. Before you go to sleep, ask yourself, who did I help feel important today? Over time, your life will change in ways that may surprise you. People will speak to you more openly. They will trust you more readily. They will offer cooperation instead of resistance. They will remember you not for what you said, but for how you made them feel. Try this with the very next person you meet today. Watch their face. You will see the difference. Before you go, I would love to know, where are you from? How old are you? And in which part of your life do you want to develop more social power at work? In your relationships, with friends, or within your family? If you want more Dale Carnegie style insights on how to understand people, win their trust, and build real influence, subscribe.